Greetings to you, blessed ones. You are here and we are here. And you find yourselves in a state of awareness where you feel as if things are settling a little bit for you, and yet you cannot impact on the world around you. We want to say to you, particularly for those of you who are in this room, because it's by no design that you're here on this evening, is that you are sitting in a space where, in some ways, you are being separated from the reality you see around you. And so, in some sense, there can be a sense of distance within you. There can be a sense of loneliness within you. There can be a sense of disconnection. Not within your own selves, but with the exterior world. For those of you who have crossed the threshold into the new paradigm, energetically, the leap has already been made. Energetically, it has already occurred for you by around November 2016. And what that leap means is that you are no longer subject to cyclical patterns of behavior nor rhythms associated with cycles. It also means that you are no longer subject to your history, which means that you are no longer subject to your karmic memories, which means you are no longer subject to predetermined pathways. So you have crossed over energetically and vibrationally, but as you are perhaps already aware, your physical bodies move a little bit more slowly than the rest of you. And so you find yourselves in this space at this time where your bodies are still requiring at least another 5 to 6 weeks to be able to align with where you are in your disconnection from your history. We will elaborate perhaps for you. What we would say is that the DNA itself requires time to be able to clear itself of its historical predetermination. It requires time to clear itself of, we will choose our words carefully, those programs that would necessitate struggle, those programs that would necessitate repetition of past behaviors, and those programs that you would inherit necessarily through your genetic lines. So what we say to you is this: you have already crossed over into the new energy, into the new realm of this planet and into fifth dimensionality, but your bodies have not yet. And that is why you are in this period of what we would call the quarantine. Now, it's very important that you understand what this period of the quarantine really means, because what it really means is you're in your final preparation. Preparation for what? Preparation to be re-entering humanity, to be re-entering the exterior of reality, not as repeaters of history, not as playing out predetermined roles that were created within your genetics, but actually re-entering reality so that you can actually become creators for what next, creators for what is ahead. Now, it is always the way with the physical body that the programs within the DNA and the programs within the cells are designed in such a way that it is very, very difficult for you to move beyond those programs, even if vibrationally, mentally, emotionally, you understand that they are there. And that is because the way these programs are designed is that they actually work within the subconscious. Not the subconscious of your minds, but the subconscious of your DNA. Because the DNA actually has a subconscious layer. And so what it means is that even if you are aware that you have moved beyond your history and you are reforming a new identity, your cells still have the ability to keep repeating over and over and over again what you've always done. So, this period of time that you're in right now, and you haven't got too much longer to go, is designed in a way to keep you in a buffer zone. To keep you in a buffer zone where you're not really allowed to go back to where you were, and you can't really go ahead to what's next, because if you were to move ahead to what's next, your body would still carry within the subconscious layer those patterns you wish to leave behind. Do you understand? It's a very interesting crossover period for the physical body. So what we say to you is patience. And it's a very wonderful time for you to be very much looking internally. Because if you are in the buffer zone of the quarantine and you cannot connect or impact to the exterior world, you can't really go anywhere, agree? Isn't that how many of you are feeling right now? You're not really going anywhere? Because humans love to think that if they're progressing within themselves and within their own energies, that they should be taking action. However, we say this is not a time for action for many of you. It is a time for stillness, because if you were to take action at this time, your cells, as we have said, would do the same thing. When you are actually released, not from the zoo, but from the quarantine, back into the general energetic population of the planet, it will be an opening that will allow you complete autonomy in what you create. So we will talk about that in a moment, because when you actually re-enter reality, you'll be re-entering a reality with a different set of rules altogether. When you are sitting in the quarantine, you must be aware that you are not able to interact with your exterior environment. How many of you are having difficulty actually energetically interacting with anything exterior to you? There would be many of you who are energetic practitioners in this room who are having trouble with the actual exchange of energy at this time. Would you agree? And this is a very important point that we want to make. So when you're in your quarantine, very difficult to actually, with comfort, move in and out of other people's energy. Very difficult. Your consciousness and your vibrational frequency knows that it's all the same energy. Agree? You understand about unity consciousness in this space, but your physical body does not yet. And so what many of you are beginning to experience is that where previously you didn't have any discomfort working energetically with others, now you're experiencing discomfort. For many of you. So, exchange. When you're sitting in the quarantine, you cannot exchange energy. You cannot. You cannot interface with the exterior world. What you can do is you can actually start to work on your interior reality. It's a very valuable time for you. This is the time to be consolidating with your interior reality, which means that instead of looking for reference externally, because you're actually unable to interact with it anyhow, it is about actually going within. Because when you are in the quarantine, there is the invitation to source from your own internal awareness. Which means that now is the time to actually start looking within your own self. Now is the time to actually start looking within for your information. Because in the space of the quarantine, everything becomes amplified. Which means everything becomes more accessible to you and more is available to you. Something amazing is happening with your cells right now. And your cells right now are actually becoming doorways to that which you wish to know. They're actually becoming portals to the all. So if we were to say to you that your internal awareness is an invitation to experience all the knowledge that you've ever wanted, to actually have free access to what many would call the Akash, now is the time to investigate that. The quarantine experience you are having will amplify the ease of your ability to do this. So we are strongly recommending that you turn your attention within, because this is the time where much can be revealed for you, and for many of you, new concepts, new ideas, and new processes will be revealed in preparation for you to be going back into the world. Do you understand? Yes? All right. So this is you in quarantine. Yes? This is the exterior third dimensional world of cycles, history, and predetermination. What are you seeing at this time in your exterior world? What are you seeing?
Some chaos.
Chaos? Destruction? An amplification of human pattern? Agree? That which you wish was not here but is still here? Yes? Because when you are in here, everything is amplified. It's like being in a giant glass bubble. When you look out of the bubble, everything looks amplified. So there are many of you who are lamenting the exterior world at this time, but have you noticed that those of you that are lamenting it are more aware than those who are living it? So it actually feels more concerning to you than it does to those here. Do you understand what we're saying to you? Because of this amplification effect. Now, very important to understand this concept. In third dimensional reality, where everything works on a cyclical nature, where everything is about cause and effect, and it goes around and around and around and around, it also, if you look at the geometry of the circle, that's the continuation, that's the cycle of perpetual motion. Now what happens when two people get involved in the circle? There is an energetic pull that happens, an energetic exchange, and this is what starts to happen. Yes? So this one was a little bit perplexed when we first described this to them, because in their awareness and in their consciousness, this symbol has always meant unity. Agree? And in many senses, it is unity, because it is a configuration of the circle, and the circle is unity, correct? The circle is unity of a concept. It begins, it fulfills itself, and it comes to its own conclusion. It is satisfied, it has proved its existence and purpose. Sound like human? Yes? That is the circle. That is what it is designed for. This is what the rhythm of your planet has been for hundreds of thousands of years. Now, humanity has come to understand that this symbol here, which means all and nothing and all of it, yes, infinite possibility, is actually the circle with the exchange energy of cooperation. So what it does is it creates a pull, and this becomes the configuration. So it's still a circle that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, but this time there are two different polarities. Do you see? So there were many that would say unto us, as this one would say unto us, that this is a symbol of harmony. And yes, it is a symbol of harmony, but it is also a symbol of exchange, and it is also a symbol of obligation in human context. If we were to challenge you even further, we would say that this is a symbol of the service paradigm, and that it is also a symbol of cause and effect, because whatever is contributed from here ultimately comes back. Agree? Karmic cycle. Yes? So we're challenging you a little bit here. We're challenging this one a lot. So this principle in itself is based upon exchange. Would you agree? The harmonics of exchange. Now, the harmonics of exchange requires you to be in obligation. So what it means is that whatever you set forth in motion ultimately will dictate your experience. It also means that humanity, because your systems have been created on this, your systems have been developed from this idea, that your creationary practices on this planet and your systems are designed so that once you set this in motion, you can't do anything else. You are in obligation. You are in service. Do you understand? And this is not only based on the systems of law, because this is a system of law. It's also the system of education. It's also a system in relationships, agree? In relationships, we must give as we receive. Is that not the message? And we by no means wish to suggest that this message hasn't been appropriate for certain periods of time within humanity, but we want to explain to you that where you are going now, this is going to change. And that what you are moving into now is freeing yourself from exchange. Now, exchange is a very tricky concept for many humans, particularly physicists. And what your physicists are beginning to understand is that perhaps exchange may not quite be what it was thought to be. So we want to get very clear that moving forward, you're going to be challenged with this. You're going to be challenged with this because it's going to be difficult for you to understand that not everything that you do needs to have an exchange. What do we mean by that? Well, this is what 2017 is all about. Because 2017 is about moving beyond exchange and moving to the heights of and the breadths of what you can actually achieve if you're not locked into this. So, yes?
So, will that by default challenge people's beliefs and expectations?
Yes, it will. It will challenge people's beliefs and expectations. And because energetically, you are already moving beyond this, there will be many of you in this room who will be challenged in 2017 by those who try to take you to task about value and exchange. Be aware. So there will be many of you who will have your business practices questioned. There will be many of you who will bring you to task and say this is not fair. Or you may in yourself be saying this is not fair. This is not equal exchange for me. Be aware. You are freeing yourself from that limitation. It's very important that you allow things to flow without an expectation of exchange and without your obligation in it as well. Very important, because what it's going to do is that it's actually going to allow you to create more, and that means more supply, it means more money, it means more relationships, it means more doors opening. It will allow you to have more of that if you are willing to let go of exchange. Exchange is keeping you limited. Yes? Now, how many of you use the word exchange in the work that you do? Probably quite a few. So very important. It's about moving beyond the boundary of exchange. If you can move beyond the boundary of exchange, you can actually move into a completely different sphere of what is available to you. Because what happens within exchange? What do humans do? They quantify. Yes? Which is ironic, considering that this, according to humans, is a symbol of the infinite. Wouldn't you agree? Oh, the confusion. So as soon as you quantify based on your role in exchange, you are immediately limiting yourself to what you can experience and what is available to you. Does it make sense to you? It's exactly the same with money. It's the same with time. Yes? How many of you lament that you don't have enough time or you have too much time? As soon as you quantify, you become limited by the conditions of exchange. As soon as you quantify money, you become limited by the conditions of exchange. Be aware, this is the year for you to test that. This is the year for you to challenge that. Because all of you are not meant to be struggling. You're meant to be creating beyond the limitation of this. Yes?
So the substitute for the word exchange in the human mind would be?
What we would say is don't substitute it. Because it's not even about giving. If you were to say exchange, you would be saying giving or receiving, yes? Very interesting to us how the human mind likes to exchange one concept for another. Can you see it? So what we would say to you is, rather than look for a substitute, just pay attention and consciously dequantify. Now, on a practical level, what does this mean? It means that you do something not for what you believe it will bring you. You do not give so that others give back to you. And you know this is a fundamental anyway. But it also means that you do not give to others because they have given something unto you. What it means that in every choice and in every moment, it's only about, am I acting from a space that is compelled to do this? Because what that's doing is it's taking you out of your mind brain, the circle, the twisted circle, and it's taking you into consciousness wants to do this. My consciousness wants to do that. My consciousness wants to give some money to this person. Consciousness within me wants to do this service. Consciousness within me wants to receive this or ask for this. Because you don't ask with obligation in mind. How many of you have problems when asking for things? Of course. Why do humans have problems with asking with things? Paying attention? Because they think it means that they're going to be in obligation to return. Do you see it? Limitation. You are not in obligation anymore. You may ask freely and it shall be given to you. That is the law. You've heard that one before, agree? Ask and it shall be given to you. That is the way that consciousness works. But what humans have come to understand is, if I ask a human, I'm going to be in obligation. Do you see it? So your challenge here is to not address humanity. You can't anyway, you're in a quarantine. Your challenge here is to ask consciousness. Consciousness, this is what I ask for. Interesting year, 2017. Watch what happens. Are you willing to move out of exchange? If you are in for a very expansive year.